of the traditional territories that we work and also play on, I encourage everybody to look at native-land.ca. It's an amazing website where you can enter in your home address, you can enter in your children's school, you can enter in all of these different places, and it actually shows you on a map the number of territories that you might be playing on, for example, or where your home is, where you're not working on. I learned that I live in Langley, and I live on the unceded ancestral territories of 7 different nations in that part of British Columbia. So it's a wonderful resource and a great way to continue to educate ourselves. So I'd also like to note that the session is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube at a later date. So if you don't wish to be recorded and are participating on Zoom, please keep your camera and mic off and use the chat box for questions. Marie will be monitoring the chat box if you have any questions. For those of you here in the room, if you do not wish to be recorded, feel free to sit out of the view of the camera, which you can see the view here. We can also re-aim the camera as needed. And write down your questions and feel free to give it to me, and I can ask a question for you as well. And with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Alvarez for coming to speak to us today. Dr. Alvarez is the education coordinator here at PIMS at UBC. She has a BSc in actuarial sciences and multiple master's degrees, which I found amazing, in operational research, economics, and anthropology, and then a PhD in mathematical education. In 2022, she won the UBC Envisioning Equity Award and is the mainstay for PIM's extensive outreach program. Her talk today is titled Addressing Mathematical Inequity in Indigenous Education. And with that, I'd like to thank you and pass over.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. I don't know, I've been giving talks for a long time, and always the first 5 minutes I get nervous, so bear with me. I don't know why, but it's like, that's the way. But thank you very much for being here. So yeah, this is the, let's see, the title of my own, Addressing Mathematical Inequity in Indigenous Education. A clean slate, let them show us what they know. And I think this is something that I want you to keep in mind as I give the talk, because I think that many times the assumptions and the stereotypes that we put on people don't let us see who the people really are, and not allow us to see what they know and how they express it. So just keep that in mind. Again, I like to acknowledge that we are currently located on the unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Chilpa. So, and thank you for the acknowledgement as well. So for me here in Canada, really started in working with Indigenous people, really started in Kamloops. What you will see over there is, there's the, this is a recent construction, Canada Community Center, and what you will see here, that was the residential school, okay? That's a residential school and around the residential schools where they found many of the bodies of, that started a lot of recent discussions lately about what has happened with too many of the children that went to these residential schools. And then here you'll see this gray building is the Skelep School. That was the first First Nation school I visited and started working with many years ago. Skelep means coyote. Coyote is the trickster in the culture from that part, and so and usually the trickster is the one that also teaches us quite a lot. So it's I think it was very appropriate. So that's where everything started. Some people ask me, and I like to how. For me, it's like I got started. I'm kind of shameless and things like that. So, but somebody once started. How do you get started? How you get started? How you start working with people? So, what happened? I will tell you a little bit more about that. But it is, I think, that what sometimes stops people is where to start. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that how I got started into this, how I got started into education. And then how I ended up doing some of the things that I've been doing with so many people around me, because what has been done is just not what I've done, is what many people with me have worked together. So my background, I studied in Mexico. I went to the National University of Mexico. I'm studying mathematics and also actuarial sciences there. My daughter studies from the US and Canada. And yes, I had several master's degrees and trying to compromise. And when you are married, things life is never straightforward. We're not going to that, but that is for a counselor. We work on that. It's done. I'm happy now. It's all good. Okay. Anyway, so being an educator, being an educator was not part of my plan. That was not really what I wanted to do. I had, studies. I was working for the private industry. So as I said, this was not part of my plan. It all worked out because I had children and I started seeing what was going on at schools with my children and the education that they were getting, and especially mathematics. And so little by little, I started to get more and more and more involved into that. What I saw, and also was what I started to work more at my daughter's school. I volunteered there, and I remember they asked me to help with the math there. But I remember my daughter came one day and she said, "Mom, they took all the Latino kids in the school, and they put them in this room, and they're teaching them just silly stuff." Actually, she said, "I'm glad they didn't figure out I was a Latino, so they would have put me over there." So this was for me very interesting, and I went to the school, and I was working with the kids that were doing very well in mathematics, and I said, "Well, I also want to work with these Latino children." And some teachers thought that it was a waste of my time, and I said, "Well, it's my time." So I started working with them, and these kids were up to grade level, if not above what was expected grade level. What happened is they didn't have the language skills. Their English was not enough. And so when I showed the teacher what the kids were doing with me mathematically, the teacher was really surprised. The teachers were really nice. I'm not criticizing them. Is that they were told that Latino kids were not able to perform as well as the other kids. It was again a stereotype. And so when I started to look into that, that was one thing. Another thing that also happened, and this is personal, was when my son moved in the United States. There's elementary school, then there's middle school, then there's high school. When my son was moved to the middle school, he was put in the low-level math program, right? Because they saw, what was the only thing? Because they saw his name, Rodrigo. Rodrigo is a very Latino name, so we're going to put you there. I went and talked to the principal, and the principal actually told, we were discussing and all that stuff, and your son, he'll be okay. And then the principal tells me, "Well, if anything, Mrs. Adam, your son will be able to get the math help at school that he will not be able to get at home." And my husband and I are mathematicians, but the assumptions, the stereotyping. Again, the stereotyping, the assumptions, and the stereotyping. And so they, and then also, this was not, there were all instances, I'm not going to go into that, but this is stereotyping. It is really a terrible thing. And I talk about everybody, it happens to everybody. And we all have, and I'm not saying that I have never stereotyped people. I will be lying to you. We all do it. What we have to do is to become conscious about it and try to watch out for these things and to really work on those things ourselves. I'm not going to say that we do it. So do students belonging to an ethnicity minority have to deal with stereotypes with some frequency? Yes, they do. They do. Okay. Hispanics or Latinx are lazy, but we are good dancers. Yeah, I am a good dancer. I have to say that. I love a good salsa, but not everybody is. Ask my husband. Anyway, so Asians are good in mathematics. Women do poorly in science and math. African Americans consistently score low in tests. Parents of indigenous children have addiction problems. These are themes that people have in their minds, and we all do for some groups over and over and over again. And really, these are things that really we need to see what they do to others, but also what they do to us as people. Okay. Now, if you think that we got all these fast, it's not. For example, in Florida, there's an ethnic-based educational policy in place that says lower achievement goals for Hispanics and African American students. That's the reality. when I was in Wisconsin, and this was something that really, I went, several of my friends went through. They forced Spanish English immersion programs on Latino kids because they spoke Spanish. They will not be able to do it and all this stuff. Interestingly enough, it was for Latin American kids, but from children who came from Spain who spoke the same language. Oh no, they don't need it. See, they are stereotyping them. The Europeans were okay, the Latin Americans were not okay. So and what was interesting about these programs, yes, the level of achievement was supposed to be lower. And I really got very much into that when they were starting with this Spanish-English immersion. I'm not against Spanish-English immersion. I think it's great if kids could learn both languages and work with both languages. But it is, what is it that you're expecting from your students and what you're giving to the students? In Canada, we have that several First Nations groups have created their own, First Nations schools because of how their students were stereotyped and sometimes not treated quite fairly in schools. Okay, and there are also curriculum issues there. There's also here there seems to be a great disconnect between first generation Filipino parents' educational achievement and their children lower levels. And here I have to say that I experienced this. This was not a long time ago. This was like 5-6 years ago. I was asked by a school, and I'm going to name the school, to come and work with Filipino students because they were supposed to be in grade 8 and grade 9 level, and they were performing allegedly at grade 2 level. So I went during spring break to do this summer camp with these children, and we started working. And the kids were really quite good and quite brilliant. I didn't see any great disparity. But again, it was a matter of the language, it was a matter of expectations. If you have low expectations that for a child and the child knows it, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is really, really important to keep in mind. Okay? So really, stereotype threats refer to being at risk of confirming, really. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I have students that they say, yes, well, I have a little bit of a learning disability. They know it themselves and they carry that with them. You carry that with you, that really, really, it's hurtful. And unfortunately, those kids are going to perform at that level. Not all of them, but some of them, So again, there are countless of studies about how stereotyping really threatens the academic performance of students. And here are some examples, students of low academic background, again, the parents don't have money, probably the parents are drunk, probably that this, probably that. And then the child already comes to you and you have already a whole story about that child in your head. That doesn't help, right? So what is it that we need to do? Well, so first of all, it's important that students really embrace their ethnicity and share it with others, and try to overcome that. And, so this is something that is, we can't even come from the same culture, but we are completely different people. And that happens to you, not because you are Canadians or because you are Chinese or because you are Latino, because you are Mexican, you are the same. We are different people with different characteristics, with different goals, with different ways of thinking. Why we always put just one stereotype on people? So this is, so it's important also to talk about the issues, to use examples. And then for me, teaching respect. This is I think one problem where I really find is when people start having discussions, they don't know how to have discussions because they don't know how to be respectful of other people's points of view. And I think this is really where a lot of the problems that right now we have in schools is if you are not with us, you are against us. You have to think like me, you have to be like me. People can be different and they can have different perspectives, but let's respect the different points of view and be respectful about how you address each other. So, and sometimes, I would say, I would talk about an experience I had many years ago. They needed someone to talk about the traffic in my neighborhood, and they needed a chair for the committee. And I go to my neighbor's meeting, and everybody was from the Midwest, and I was the only Latina there. and they needed a chair, and nobody raised their hand, and I raised my hand, and I said, I want to be the chair, and everybody's like, oh, who's this person? And then they said, well, I guess we need a co-chair. Okay, fine, we have a co-chair. But they were respectful. They didn't know. And then after I worked a lot, and after I did all the stuff that I worked very hard for my neighborhood. And then I was going to come here to Canada. One of my neighbors called me to apologize and said, "Look, I really want to apologize to you because when you came and you said you wanted to be a co-chair, I was really kind of scared. Who were you? I didn't know. I have all these stereotypes about Latino people, but I'm so glad that I met you, and I was able to, to change my mind about a lot of things and open my mind." But you see, so yeah, she was perhaps in her head discriminating me, whatever, I don't know. But she was respectful within everything. And so sometimes what we need is just to show a little respect. We can be different, but and because that respect existed, then we were able to communicate, and I was able to change her mind. So now, what are the things we need to do is we need to have high expectations. For me, I always have high expectations. Of all the children that come and work with me, that's it. But and to provide support. Now, not being a neighbor, at the beginning, I remember when I was working with kids, I really wanted to rescue them, and I wanted to do everything. I almost wrote even the exam for them. No, what you need to do is to be there as support, and it have to be up to them, but provide that support and have those high expectations. Those things are really, really important. So it emphasize high standards, okay? And if they have those high standards, the students will really many times they raise to that standard. This is, by the way, a group of the Filipino kids that I worked with a long time ago. So they were really, really great to work with. And they really love to do mathematics with me. So that was great. Okay. So constructive feedback, is very effective. Having high standards that you all know as statisticians, as mathematicians, the high of proving something, of getting something, the kids also get that high, and they know that they accomplished. And they know that I didn't baby them, or they know that they could do it. And that's an important feeling to that. Providing role models. Providing role models is important, to be able to, when we had a summer camp, to bring people from different communities, and the children see, yes, I can do it. Myself, as a woman, I go to a lot of schools, and I talk about mathematics and tell them I'm a mathematician. Now, and it's important that girls see that I do mathematics, and I took it as a normal thing. I don't make a big deal, by the way. We women can do it. I don't like that. I want it to be natural. It should be natural. You shouldn't put down boys, or you shouldn't put for that. You just show who you are. I like that approach. Okay. So what we have is we need to let students show their potentials. Do not speculate on the academic, social capacity based on ethnic stereotypes. Start with a clean slate. Give them a chance, to show what they are capable of. This is really one of my main messages, because I see how all this stereotyping really hurts all those children. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some of the activities that PIMS and the math department at UBC have been doing. So we kind of sponsor and coordinate quite a variety of educational activities. We ask professors, we ask graduate students, undergraduate students, all sorts of volunteers to help us with these activities as well. So what is it we want is to promote research and applications of mathematical sciences. We want to facilitate mathematical training of highly qualified personnel, but also we want to reach public awareness of an education in the mathematical sciences and the advantages of knowing mathematics. So we want to foster math curiosity, to enrich math learning, and basically change the perception that math is a horrible thing. I know I'm talking for a cult here. We all know how beautiful is math, so I don't have to convince you. But unfortunately, there are people out there who really they've been lied to. I really think that people who doesn't like mathematics, they've been lying to us. That's a horrible thing and it's a terrible thing. Mathematics is a beautiful thing. So right now there's something that was on is this is a diversity in math summer school. This is a program that was spearheaded first by PIMS, UBC, SFU, started by Malavika, Malgorzata Zubiel, and Veselin Junjek, and now it's also at the University of Alberta. This is a multi-year, multi-level program geared towards promoting STEM and focus on undergraduate women and high school students and a connection between them, kind of mentorship programs working together. And also, so this is an interactive camp, okay, and where students form groups, okay, and high school students form underrepresented minorities, they get together and they start working in a variety of projects and interesting things. So this is, and then they also get some of the support from undergraduate students, and undergraduate students get support from graduate students, and so on and so forth. So it's a great program. We have teachers workshops, we have mentorship programs, tutoring programs, summer camps, have had scholarships, math circles. We have all sorts of conferences, parent programs. So those are some of the programs that we have. Okay, we have something called Math Mania. And for example, here, this is something where this is usually a one-time event that we go to schools and we take, it's like a math fair. We take all kinds of games and puzzles, and the kids come and you play with the games based on the puzzles and all the stuff. They have a great time. Usually it's like an hour and a half. It could be in the afternoons. It can be during school time. We do several of these a year throughout basically all Western Canada. And what's interesting is, working with the kids, and after an hour or an hour and a half when it's done, I ask the kids, so did you have fun? And they, yeah, this was great, this was wonderful. And I said, so you all love math? No, what do you mean no? We've just been doing math for the last hour and a half, and you had a great time. This is math. This is math, yes. And so then something starts happening there, something starts happening there. That's what we like to see. Something what we do also is to work with teachers, and we have several conferences like Sharing the Math and Changing the Culture, where we work with teachers a lot. I think here is where lays a lot of the issues. I think that in elementary, specifically elementary school teachers, many of them, their math preparation is not adequate, and so we work with teachers quite a lot. So for the last 7 summers, we've been running a summer camp for elementary school teachers. This is a 4-week summer camp in the summer. We spend 3.5 hours a day for 4 weeks working with teachers. And frankly, and then after that, we visit their classrooms regularly for, for a year or even beyond that. And that really has made a difference. What's interesting is when many of these teachers apply to the summer camp, many of them say, I don't feel comfortable teaching mathematics. I don't feel okay teaching math. I am not okay. And what is upsetting to me is that the people who come to this summer camp, they are perfectly capable individuals. They really can do the math, but they were not given the training. And this is something right now I'm going to do my political spiel. We have here, we just require 1 math course, to get into education program. I actually teach visual program. There's someone there in the back who teach also that course. And what happened is, one semester is not enough. We really need more than 1 semester, And even my students said some students are okay with math, but many of them are not. And then they just go to the education school, which is they just receive 24 more hours of math, which is mainly pedagogy, not mathematics. And so it's not enough. They don't feel comfortable. And here's where the weakest link happens. Here's where I think personally all the problems start, not just for indigenous students. I think for many students, this is where the issues with mathematics happen, and we need to address it. And frankly, most of the teachers I work with are very capable individuals, and they're capable to learn all of this and to work with all this, but we're not giving them the tools And it's not fair with them. I'm just saying that. So I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the system. We need to do something about that. Okay, now I finished with my political spiel. Now let's go to First Nations initiatives. So we have developed partnerships with First Nations schools in Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and we really want to just enhance mathematical achievement of Indigenous students. Now, what should we care about Indigenous education? Really, the Indigenous population is one of the fast-growing populations, fast-growing, how can I say, fast-growing populations here in Canada, right? And so we really are going to have all these young people that if we don't prepare, they're not going to have opportunity to have the jobs that really they should have. It is really important to do that. We're going to imagine having all this group of young people who are, possess of something that really they should have access to. So it is really important to really address the difference of Indigenous population here. Also, there are the people who are natives of this country. So they're the first. Yeah. Now, again, as I said, is part of what we do when we work with them is we leave them behind the philosophy of reduced expectations. Okay. And something that is really interesting is people, oh, Melania, you're so focused just on math. There's other things in life. That is true. But the thing academically, why mathematics is so powerful. There are studies that show that if students do well in math or they feel they can do well in math, it really permeates to the other subjects. Okay. So if they feel that power, they're usually going to feel that they can perform well on. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. Okay. So we have summer camps. We go to small communities like Kamloops, Lytton. When we spent many years in Lytton, when Lytton burned, we were really brokenhearted. Then Merritt to Mount Currie, we go to northern communities. We have parents' nights, so we used to ask parents to come to parents' night, and I went to all these First Nation schools, and we used to say, oh, come to these math sessions for parents. Nobody will show. They want to show. So we said it was, oh, come to these games and fun session for parents. Everybody show up. So you have to also know how to advertise, right? So we have all these games, all these math things. We talked about that, and then we give them care packages of games and stuff that they could do with the kid. And yes, we give them the answers to everything, so they'll be all powerful and wonderful. We also have adult mentorship programs. We have a peer mentorship program that was actually a very successful program, where we will do is we hire either some students from the local university to go to schools, and work with the students there and help the teachers. But also another thing that we did, for example, in SUC, is we will pick some of the best Indigenous students in the high school, and we will pay them about $100 a month. So it was $800 altogether for the school year. But they were supposed to take care of 3 or 4 of their peers to help them with their math. And so really, really helped those students that they helped. But also many of those people who became mentors became kind of leaders. They grew, and then somebody said, oh, but how come they're all the other volunteers and they don't get paid and you get paid? And then one of us, I'm going to quote, said, well, it pays to know math. There we are. Yeah, there's a differential, right? So there we are. So as I said, we have we're working currently with First Nation schools, okay, or with schools with significant percentage of Indigenous population. So there are a lot of schools on the east side. There are schools on North Vancouver, where you will find a lot of high schools with a high percentage of Indigenous population, and also there are some First Nation schools. Something that is important and really what got me started is when I started, I approached FINESC, which is the First Nations Education Steering Committee. This is an organization for BC that overlooks education for all Indigenous groups in this province, and the First Nations School Association, so those two. And what happens is we're working with them. They were the ones who first introduced me to different principals and different teachers from different schools, so that's why I started to work with them. They have asked us to produce assessment for the schools. We have conferences with them. They ask us about the math program, so we have be able to facilitate all these things for them as well. And so do you see, there's a lot of things that we can do about it. Now, how this whole thing got started? Really, what we did was to approach Finesse. And fortunately, at the time that I approached Finesse, the director of Finesse was a person who really wanted to do something about math. She actually set up a conference where I got invited. I talked about possibilities, and then from there, several schools approached me. The first one was Scalep in Kamloops, and that's how things got started. So when people ask me, what do you do? Well, what I usually do is I approach the community. I approach if we go to a remote location, I approach the schools, I approach the principals. I tell them, look, we are a group of people who we like to help. We have done these kinds of things in the past, but you tell us if you would like to work with us, and if you do, what is it that you will like, how you envision things. Because things are not always the same everywhere. The resources are not always the same everywhere. The beautiful thing is mathematics is very flexible, so we can be really flexible about a lot of things that we can do. I'll tell you an example, even the summer camps. For example, we had a summer camp in Mount Curry, and we had a summer camp in Kamloops. And so in Kamloops, we have the math and the English in the morning, and then in the afternoons, the kids were doing film studies and things like that. In Mount Curry, the kids didn't want to wake up early in the morning to do math. They wanted to do it in the afternoon. But something that happened was they wanted to, then they woke up a little bit later, then they wanted to do soccer. Okay, so there was soccer, and then the elders would make a big pot of soup, so there was soup, and then there was math. So it was the soup and math summer camp. So each place has its different thing, and I think that this is what you need to do. You need to, this thing of here I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you, no. We are here, equal partners. What is it that you will like, how you like it, and here, as I said, go to schools, go talk to the principal, talk to elders, find out who's the elder is there. The elders are, many of them are people who really have a lot of wisdom and desire to work with people and to make things better for them. So that's another thing. So we have, as I said, in Vancouver, we have, as I said, mentorship programs, teachers workshops. And this is something that from 2007 to 2019, we did these summer camps. I'm really upset that we are not doing them anymore. I think that they made a big difference, but I'm going to talk about them anyway, because perhaps someone there is listening and would like to do it. And if they want to start on their own, I can give you my experience. So these were two summer camps. Was a transition from elementary to high school, and the other one was from high school. They were high school students. And there was a transitional elementary, and then the UBC Emerging Aboriginal Scholars, the SFU Academic Summer Camp, and Langara College Emerging Indigenous Scholars Summer Camp. So what happened with this things is what we wanted to do. The transitional summer camp, the elementary to high school, those were students who were in grade 6 or no, grade 7, and were going to go to high school. This was on the east side. And what happened was that we got all those students actually were going to go to Britannia Secondary. And then the summer camp happened at Britannia Secondary. So then they had that summer to get to know the place. They met the principal, everybody, and we run the summer camp. I'll talk a little bit about that. Then the high school students, what happened is they came here to the university, okay? And so then they will find out how the university looked like, that they could feel comfortable here and things like that. So what they did is they took both camps, the transitional and the high school. In the morning, students took 1.5 hours of math and 1.5 hours of English. We found that English was also another important subject that they needed to do. Then for the elementary to high school, in the afternoon, they have all sorts of activities like, swimming, basketball, etc. And then one day a week, we bring a role model to talk to them about careers, about possibilities. The high school summer camp, what happened again, 1.5 hours of math, English, 1.5 hours of math and English in the morning. And then In the afternoon, 3 afternoons a week, they have internship jobs with professors here around the university. Okay, so that then they could see what is it that people did here, what kind of jobs, what kind of things they have to deal with. So it was really, really a very nice setting for them. And then once a week, again, we have an elder, or we have someone indigenous person, successful in his field, her field, and then come and talk to the students. So this was, as I said, this was basically what it was. We have that. By the way, because the students were working with faculty here, the students were paid $100 for 7.5 hours of work a week. So that was also a thing. So they had a real job, and actually some students got jobs after the summer camp because they have letters of recommendations of professors here that you see. So it was really, really nice. Okay. So the objectives was we wanted to increase the participation and retention of high school students. Many students after grade 10, they really left high school. They didn't see a purpose. They were not passing their math. They were really very, very few were passing math 10. They didn't see a purpose. Why I'm staying here? I'm wasting my time. I can go get a job. So for us, it was important that they felt that yes, there could be something after, academically after them, after this. Then we want to expose the students to experience what is faculty life, what was the university about. Then we have, for some students also to come to the university could be kind of scary. So, hey, get used to come. We have a good atmosphere. This was actually when we were doing it here. The students were at the Longhouse, and then so it was a good atmosphere for them, and it was a good introduction for them. Okay. And so we wanted to show them also all the stuff that was happening here at the university. That was mainly the thing, okay? And expose them to research possibilities. So it was a hands-on experience. I could just go on and on. The first objective for us was to have students to graduate at least with Math 10 at that time, because many of them were not. So we were actually successful about that. Some students will fail math 10, for example, or were not ready for Math 10. So those 5 weeks of intense math was really, really helpful to them. Because also what happens is we accepted maximum 30 students. And those 30 students were separated in groups of 15. So the teacher was working just with 15 students instead of 20-something. But not just that. We also have our graduate students and undergraduate students volunteering to come and help. So we have around 4 or 5 volunteers, plus the teacher working with 15 students, an hour and a half, 5 days a week. So that really made a difference for a lot of students. They were able to really pass and go and succeed and better. We have some students who went to University of Waterloo. We have some students who came here, and it made a big difference. There was a student who was going to go into trades and took a summer camp, and then all of a sudden, he fell in love with trigonometry. He found out that he was better in math than he thought, and from there he became an engineer. So we were able to then we were okay. Let's do pre-calculus 12, and we also even have students who ended up taking all the way to calculus in high school. So that was really something that made a difference. Now I'm going to show you a little bit the budget. The budget really of I call it the luxury summer camp. This is $50,000 for 5. Just think of it, 5 weeks. We feed them breakfast. We feed them lunch. We pay the students. We have master teachers, because for me it was important. We have a camp coordinator. And we just pay $50,000. It's not a lot of money, but I was always asked to justify why are we doing this. There are a lot of summer camps here at the university for many kids, and they never have to justify, and they never have to follow, and here I was always to justify. And frankly, I think that this amount of money is an amazing investment for what the students are. We're working with people who are mistreated. I'm not just talking even about indigenous, but people who had suffered through all these things. Many of them, they later on end up being criminals, being in places that they shouldn't be. And I'm thinking, how much it costs, and this is not talking about indigenous people, how much it costs to have a criminal in jail in this country? $120,000 a year. Just think about that. And we always want to, when it is about this underrepresented minorities, we're always questioning if the money is worth it. So, I don't know. I don't want to make the link so much, but I think this is nothing. 5 weeks makes a big difference. So, what is the cost of not providing opportunities for indigenous people? Okay. So we have education, if you look at education, we look at infrastructure, we know all that stuff and other services. Really, some people made a calculation and said, look, if we actually provide not, indigenous people with the education and infrastructure and the services they need, they could provide at least 8.5 billion in income earned by these people. And we are taking that away. So, it is important. Now, we have workshops as well. We have workshops with elders. I remember the first conference, we invited some elders. We have math educators and indigenous coordinators and mathematicians. I remember the elders is like, why am I doing a math conference? Why am I here? And what happened was that, yes, we had a fantastic conference. We talked about a lot of things. But one thing that for me was always very intriguing, because the way I grew up in Mexico, we have the first 4 years of elementary school, we have an hour of history 4 days a week. So 4 hours a week, we have history. And those for 4 years, we learn about pre-Hispanic history. So Olmecas, Chichimecas, Mayas, Zapotecas, Purépechas, and all this stuff. And then we learn about when the Spaniards came and all that stuff. We learn about the culture. We learn about poetry. We learn about the aesthetics of their art. All of that. Here, there's not much. In the last few years, we're starting because of grade 10, history, but there's not much of that. So you have a group of people who are from this area, and they don't see themselves reflected in the curriculum. And we really need to work on that. We need to read, then we need to see about their history. We need to know about their art. We need to know about, even the wars among them. I learned all that when I was in Mexico. Here, it's like all of a sudden nothing. And so these are important things that we need to discuss. So this was things that we brought about in these discussions with the elders and the mathematicians. Also, there's this thing about math. People say, oh, we want indigenous math. We discussed this. What does indigenous math mean? Math is math, but you have to put it in the context of the culture as well. And the way we always learn math is in culture with a particular culture, and sometimes we forget that there are other cultures and other ways of thinking. But not all mathematicians are the same. Why we think that all math is going to be the same thing? So mathematics learning system. So we know that mathematics is a language. Okay, mathematics is about thinking and strategizing. Learning mathematics is a process that takes time. Many teaching programs only require 1 semester of math, and it's a short time to learn, So we have like this swim or sink situation with math, especially with teachers. And what we're working right now, is on trying to create some modules for people who want to become teachers and for current teachers to spread their learning over a period of time, okay? Where there's flexibility. I like to see if some of you would like to help us, and that's why my spiel, okay? So we need to work on this together. How can we integrate also indigenous knowledge in our curriculum and in our mathematical teaching? So we have something that we need to think about is how we start. We have the stories of our families, then we create the stories of our friends, the stories of our teachers, stories of our world. And then we have all this. This is the way how the culture and our lives shape our relationship with mathematics. See, so we need to think about all of that. And if you have indigenous students who come and learn from us, and we remove all of that, we're not really, we're not doing really our job. And I'm not saying that there should be just one culture. No, we should open it up to many cultures, to many ideas, to many ethnicities. It is important. The more we know, the better. Okay. In part, indigenous knowledge reflects the dynamic way in which the residents of an area have come to understand themselves in relationship to the natural environment and how they organize that folk knowledge. Okay. And so what we need to do is to really look at how all of this enhances our life. And also, all this thing has its relationship to mathematics. So what to do? What we don't need is, we don't need to change the math. People who say, oh, the math is different. I said, what, you could say that 2 + 2 is equal to 5 now? Yes, no, we don't do that. But what we need to do is need to change the culture of how we teach mathematics. Okay, and we need to acknowledge different contexts and different places and different cultures, and how that affects, or how not affects, how that enriches our approaches to mathematics. Okay, so it's important to work with indigenous communities. I think that this is something we need to do. We need to approach. We need to get together. Moscam is here, 10 minutes from us. You know, there are many of our students that don't even know that service just 5 minutes from us, or that across the bridge, you know, in North Vancouver, there's another reserve, the Squamish. So what we do is we believe that the union of Aboriginal tradition and academic excellence can live in one house in harmony for the betterment of all. This was a phrase that was on Scalep as we entered, and I really truly believe that. So I would like to acknowledge that some of the people, I use their graphics, and they also being learned a lot from them, and I like to thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know if there's questions on Zoom, if people want to unmute or type no questions, or if there's questions from the audience.
I'm curious how you how you selected students for the summer program.
How selected students for the summer program?
The one with like 30 spots. That seems like
Yeah, we have. Well, no, it was hard. No, you see, it was very hard to get 30 students, because the connections and the things, and sometimes they didn't. I will go to school and I say, look, I'm offering this summer camp, and they would grab the things and then they will throw them in the garbage, and they will not. So sometimes I just have to wait outside the classroom and, you know, and ask and do, and it was not that easy even to get those 30 students. So it's not like oh, you know, it's like you are advertising and also you have 100. No, this to recruit students for these kinds of camps is hard. So yes, so we make 30 students, but I have to work basically from January to June to get 30 students. So I didn't select them. Now, yeah, it is true, if they have you know, real severe learning issues, then it was hard for us to do it because we didn't have the capacity. So it had to be students, you know, like everyone else. We accept once a student, but he was amazing. So yeah, there were, you know, like I said, everybody can bring wonderful things for that. So this is what is hard, and everybody will tell you, you know, to get summer camps, this population is difficult, especially also because they knew that there were all sorts of rules. We actually had the most of the time, like 95% of, how can I say, 95, on average, 95% attendance, which is really, really good, because we have all sorts of rules, all sorts of things. I can be the wicked witch of the West, right? So I'll say, look, if you miss this summer camp more than 3 times, you're out. If you are late for more than 4 times, you're out. And I remember the first time student this, and, you know, she missed and she came and she thought I was going to say nothing. And I said, you know, you're out. And the rest of the students were like, oh, but no, it's out. And from then on, you know, we have all this discipline, but also we have a lot of people caring and helping and doing and going beyond whatever. So it was a very, very, we work out very well. And I said, I have to think, because at that time we have an excellent team. And right now I really need to get another excellent team like that to do it. I have to say, everybody has moved on after COVID. But yeah, it was not easy. It's not easy to, unfortunately, because of, I don't know, the system, the connections, sometimes to get those 30 students. So no, you're not going to have a problem. You want to do it, you know, I'll help you to do it. and wait, and if there's a problem, don't worry. We'll find money to open another summer camp and get the other 30 students. Actually, that's what happened a year. There was a year where we did simultaneously. We did with SFU and UBC. So there were almost about 30 students there and 30 students here. So yeah, sometimes you can, but we work very hard to get those 60 students. Yeah.
So there's a tension between the European science and math developed in the West culture
Yeah.
and indigenous ways of knowing.
Yeah.
Are there textbooks or material that bridge and make connections?
They're starting to be more materials. There are people working on that. You know, I've been working with several people, and there are other people who are also doing it. Yes.
At what
And,
level?
Well, that's the thing. There's not. There are some things that you could do really at high level. There's someone in Alberta who's really working at a higher level with communities, and you know, and so we are looking into that. There are also some groups in Alaska as well that they are doing things like that. There's something that the First Nation Education Steering Committee put at grade level, grade 8, grade 9. We need to work more on that. And I think mathematicians should really get involved in this and work. There was like a few years ago, we invited someone who did all these things of knitting hula hoops and you know, and I think actually I thought that the topologists should really work on the limits of doing all these hula hoops and how you can knit them all together and stuff like that. And I actually put it out there to topologists, but they didn't. I was not a good catcher, you know, I didn't catch a good topologist to the, including my husband, what can I say? Yes, so we need, there are some things, there are some stories. There's also a lot of things about storytelling. There was a story I learned about Napi, and it talks about how, you know, the birds are pooping on rocks. This is long so good, and now how the rocks get eroded. So there's also all these things about, and this happens too, right? You have all these birds pooping on you, and then all of a sudden your house starts to disintegrate. Well, not all of a sudden, but you know, little by little. So there are all these things that, you know, it's about fishing, is about all sorts of things, right? And also, we don't know, we haven't really explored a lot that's out there, and a lot of them was lost, and that's the reality. Like if we look at that, if you look at Mesoamerica, right, the Mayas, there were still things that were there. We know about the calculations that they made because the buildings are there and things like that. Here we have a little more nomadic groups. We don't know of any other groups there because really a lot of things were destroyed. So we really also need to find out a little bit more. That's where my anthropologist degree comes. Yes. Yeah, and then.
Are you still in touch with students who benefit from the?
Yeah,
from
I still. I mean, not with a lot of them move, but yes, I do. Yes.
So, is there any way, say, they can use what they learned from the camp to?
Well,
contribute to
some of them went to university. Some of them were able to get good jobs. Not all of them. But I actually have to say that we did the summer camp for elementary to high school less years, but the students who went to that one and then went to the second one did much better. It really make a big difference going to that transitional summer camp from you know, from elementary to high school. We really have a substantial, probably more of about 50% of those kids went then they on into, you know, universities or colleges or places like BCIT and places like that. Yes. So yeah, I keep in touch, not with a lot of them, but several of them. Or sometimes I ask, oh, what happened to this and what happened to that? Yes. It's hard to track. It is. I don't have the money to track everybody. That's my problem, right?
I was wondering, how did you engage the students during the summer camp, for example? What was the curriculum like? Did you like engage the students? You showed them where math is relevant. Was that a specific consideration?
We did assessments, and then according to their assessment, we created a plan for them. That's what it was.
For each individual.
For
student?
each, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Because we were able to do that, you know. So there were 15 students. There's a teacher, he assessed, and then usually puts them in groups of 2 or 3. I mean, not sometimes it will have to be individual, but usually there were groups of 3 or 4, you know, that were more or less within, you know, cluster with the same thing, and we work with them. And then we have our undergraduate or graduate students, you know, working with them for that hour and a half. Yeah.
And another question I have, and I'm curious because I have a first grader. You just mentioned math in elementary school is not well taught. I'm very surprised by that because often innovation in teaching comes from elementary school teaching. So why do you think that happens? Is it just the self-selected teachers that choose to become elementary school teachers are often teachers that are not as confident in math, or where does it
There are some teachers that are good in math and confident in math. I'm not going to say that all of them, but what happens is that what the system provides, the ones that do usually, you know, they were really good at math. They felt comfortable with it from the beginning, and they keep learning and doing that. But if you are not comfortable in math, or you don't like math, the system doesn't provide or requests what you really need, what they really needs to provide and request for teachers to really feel comfortable teaching mathematics. And I have seen it firsthand, teachers avoiding teaching math because they don't feel comfortable. Or doing this thing of, like many times I've gone and then asked, well, do you have the answers? They will not go, they will not pick up a program if you don't give them the answers to every single question. They don't feel comfortable to, or not just even the answers. Does this program come with tests? So you're supposed to provide the answers to all the problems and also tests for them to give to students. So I'm not saying that all teachers, but I'm saying I find teachers like that. So they don't feel comfortable teaching, you know, and these are capable people. Okay, it's not, my criticism is not with them. My criticism is with the system. We really need something to provide something so that they feel comfortable. And they enjoy it. It's horrible when you have to teach something you don't like. And frankly, mathematics, I don't see why people have to hate math. What we have to have this thing of, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at this, and, you know. Yes.
So I agree 100%. I've had 3 kids go through the PC school system, and sure, math is a problem, but so is history, and so is literature, and so I was wondering if it seems to me that an easy, easy to reach opportunity to access teachers' time are the professional development days that they have.
Yeah.
For the year. Do you do that as well?
So they have professional development. Usually it's about 8 days a year. That's what they have. But if you look at the professional development, mainly it's about literacy. Very few times there are very few times, where it's about math. So the school assembles whatever, or the BCMT, or the BC Math is the Teachers Association, whatever. And what happened is, when you look at the possibilities out there for professional development, most of them are on psychological stuff or literacy. Very few on math.
That's what I was asking, if you approach whoever organizes that to give them, to set up activities for them to take on math.
I go to a lot of schools here around the province. So I get invited by school to go to in the professional development days. So I do that. So I can work school to school, but yes, we need more people to help with that. We really do, But I also think that 8 days or an hour and a half is not going to make a difference. We need to do something more sustainable. This summer camp that we're doing, the 4 weeks, actually is working quite well. What I'm just thinking is about perhaps doing every other Saturday, to do it on Zoom and have teachers working with me and with other people. That's also a possibility to do that. What happens is, for this summer camp, we pay the teachers to come to summer camp because they're giving up their summer. So I don't know in the Zoom how that will work. What I would like to work, for example, with the university is, if these teachers go through this program, that they get a certificate so that then they can use that to get a higher salary. Right now, I've not been able to provide a certificate that is recognized by the school board so that they can get a higher salary. But if I'm able to do that working with the university, then I don't have to pay the teachers, right? And I can focus more on finding people. I said using that money and finding people so that they provide something during every other weekend or during the summers to do this. We need to do something. Now, for example, the honors programs in the high schools are out. So there are no honors programs. So in the name of equity, that or whatever, that's taken out, which is it's a lie, because what happens is that those programs allow kids whose parents didn't have a lot of money to have, to be able to have access to a higher level of mathematics.
what happens is they call it equity. No, because the kids whose parents have money, they're going to pay for a tutor. They're going to pay, those kids are going to be okay. But it is the kids whose parents don't have money, and now we're taking all these opportunities for those kids in the name of equity. In the United States, also, they say they don't want to have honors programs because Latino kids don't perform at that level. There were some Latino kids who did, and they have finally access there, and now it's taken out in the name of equity. And but the people who has the money, they're going to be okay. So I don't understand the logic, how these people logic work. I guess they don't know any math. That's the problem. Anyway, I think I'm gonna get in trouble. I should go on YouTube. Anyway, anything else? Yeah, now I'm in trouble. Now you can ask me. Yeah.
We do have another 30 minutes set aside for folks who are wanting to stay for the discussion and some lunch, and you're welcome to join us for that. But again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you to everybody on Zoom as well.